Okay guys, let's start this YouTube channel off with what is IMDb's current best trilogy in the entire world. Which would have been The Godfather, if it wasn't for the third one. Because fuck the third one. So, let's go.
But if you close your eyes,
The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. So the story is that there's this guy, Bilbo Baggins, who just had a massive party, and Gandalf discovers that he had a ring on him. He uses it to disappear in the party, and Gandalf gets a little bit suspicious about it. And apparently it is the One Ring, which belongs to the Dark Lord Sauron. Gandalf discovers it, Frodo manages to pick it up, and Gandalf goes, right, okay, we need to start a quest. We need to get rid of this One Ring. And so essentially it's all about the quest to destroy this One Ring. So first let's get into what I really liked about this movie. First off was the intro to this movie. I really did like the intro. I'm a non-book reader. I can't read books. I actually have a thing. I actually can't read a book. So book readers, I'm sorry, but I do not read books. But anyway, as a non-book reader going into Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the first 10 minutes of the movie I thought was absolutely spectacular. Because it's Cate Blanchett just basically narrating the entire thing as if I was reading a book. Just basically explaining how the ring came into being, what's happening so far, just for 10 minutes. And essentially I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was really interesting, I really got into it, and when the actual film starts, you know, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring comes up, I was like, yeah, I pretty much know everything about Lord of the Rings already. Which I really did love. I thought the intro was very clever. And then what I also liked about it was, there was a few comical moments in Hobbiton. Obviously the hobbits are really small people, but Gandalf is huge. That cracks me up actually quite a bit. I don't know why, it just always gets to me. I'm just going to say this right off the bat. There are 4 things about the Lord of the Rings trilogy that I just particularly love throughout the entire trilogy. So first you've got the set visuals. I mean, oh my god, it looks absolutely bewildering. I mean, obviously it's set in New Zealand, so you're going to have very snowy mountains and lovely green landscapes everywhere, so of course it's going to look absolutely amazing. There's no question about that. You know, that's what happens if you just coincidentally put New Zealand in your film. Second of all is the music. I really love the music in this trilogy because it's just used very well. You know, when there's like a nice situation going on or there's a calm situation, you know, it plays it very calmly, so the atmosphere is, you know, very settling, should I say. But when there's things happening and actions going down, or when there's a really tense scene, my god is it tense, my god do you really feel like you're in the moment. The third thing is the acting as well. I really like the acting. Everyone plays their role really well. There isn't really a person who I look at acting wise and I'm like, wow, you were really shit in that movie, why'd you do that? The fourth thing is that there are 3 performances in particular that I will take away from the trilogy. It makes this just absolutely incredible. Now first off, in The Fellowship of the Ring, you've got Sean Bean. I thought that Sean Bean was absolutely brilliant because as a character he was going through so many emotions. You know, he was being corrupted by the ring, and then he was also feeling despair, like, oh my god, I've got to protect Gondor and the White Kingdom might fall. Oh my god, what do I do if that falls, you know? Oh my god. Sean Bean played that really well, I have to say. Secondly, this guy makes the first and the second movie in particular just fucking amazing, and that's Christopher Lee. I mean, there's no question, when you get Christopher Lee on screen, you're guaranteed something spectacular, and oh my god, I mean, you can't get a better guy to play Saruman. Let's just get that right. And thirdly, you've got the guy that made this entire trilogy just work superbly. For me, personally, he has to be the best character in the entire trilogy, and that's Gandalf. I mean, Ian McKellen is just absolutely brilliant. I am almost 100% convinced you can't get anyone to play Gandalf better than this guy did. Now, going back to the first movie of Fellowship of the Ring, how do I find this movie? I find it to be a good movie. It's definitely enjoyable. I did enjoy this movie for what it was. It does set up The Lord of the Rings to be, you know, something quite spectacular for the second and third movies. In terms as a movie in itself, I mean, it's good, but I found it to be a little bit boring, if I must be honest. I mean, it's a good movie. I did enjoy it. It's boring. I mean, there are just so many moments in this movie that I could literally just pick apart and just be like, no, that's bullshit. No, I don't like that. No, I found that to be a bit annoying. And just in general, I found some moments to also be quite boring as well. I mean, first off, you've got Merry and Pippin. I mean, I just don't get these guys whatsoever. Merry and Pippin, I just feel like we're just in this movie to be comic relief, just to kind of be like, oh, you know, we're getting a bit too serious here. Well, let's just throw in Merry and Pippin because, you know, we haven't got anything else. Plus, it's the whole how they got into this situation in the first place. They accidentally wound up in this situation. They accidentally happened to stumble upon this journey. And did they bring anything to Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring? In my opinion, no, they didn't. They did in the second and third movie, but obviously I'll get to that when I do those reviews later. But in terms of the first movie, no. Now, I've already mentioned how good Gandalf and Saruman are in this movie, but There's just a moment in this movie where it just makes me laugh every single time, and I just find bewildering that they just actually recorded it and actually put it through film. I don't know why they did this. It's when they're fighting each other near the start of the film. You know, Saruman is turned out to be a traitor. Gandalf is like, oh right, okay, I see what's happening here. You're obviously a traitor. So then they have this throwdown, which has to be one of the most funniest throwdowns I've ever seen. It's just two old guys with sticks just going, wah, 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 and then just flying everywhere, just like, whoa. You know, to me, I just found that absolutely hilarious. And there's also that bit where Gandalf is spinning and twirling. I mean, am I seriously the only one who'd get You Spin Me Right Round music when he's doing that? Because I can't get that out of my head. Also, what kind of disappointed me about this movie was Legolas and Gimli. I mean, I like Legolas and Gimli, don't get me wrong. In terms of action sequences, they did have a couple of really funny or really cool moments that I'll be like, haha, that's pretty good. But in terms of actual character development, they didn't really have any. They were just two guys who were just stumbling along, who just happened to be an elf and a dwarf on this quest. There was nothing special about them, there was nothing unique about them, other than the fact that they could do some cool action shit, which, to be honest, kind of sucks, really. But guys, the main thing about this that makes it a bit boring for me is that when there are actual action sequences happening in this movie, you know, like when they're fighting in Moria and the troll is coming, or like when Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli were fighting those Uruk-hai in the area, every single time that those action sequences were going down, for some reason it would then cut over to something that was a bit uninteresting, which was mainly Frodo in trouble, which is so dull. I don't really care about that. I kind of want to see cool action shit happening. I mean, there are some cool stuff that does happen, granted, but I mean, it was just a bit boring for me. But the main thing that just drags this whole movie out for me was that sequence right at the end of Moria when they go to the elf hideout. I mean, in my opinion, that's 10-15 minutes too long. It just dragged on and I just got really bored. Because frankly, nothing is happening in the scene other than the fact that Boromir once again delivers a good performance about the White Kingdom falling, and then there's that whole sequence where Frodo looks into the possible future if Sauron were to have the ring. Personally, I didn't really want that scene. The only reason I feel like that scene was in was to establish Cate Blanchett's character, which frankly I didn't really care about. There is also another thing that really pisses me off about this movie in particular. It's the orcs in this movie, and the goblins and the Uruk-hai as well. I mean, they do not look scary whatsoever. When I picture orcs and goblins fighting men in this movie, I picture them to be quite terrifying, quite scary, you know, they'd just be really intimidating foes. I mean, it's as if Peter Jackson just went, quick, go to the nearest costume shop over there. We need some costumes for orcs. Hey, how about this one? I think this might be a good fit. Okay, how many of those can we buy? Probably about 1,000. Okay, get them, buy all of them right now. Because seriously, that's what it feels like. They look like just pieces of costume, just like someone a kid would wear to a Halloween party. They didn't look intimidating, they just look kind of silly, really. However, even though I say that about the orcs, goblins and Uruk-hais, even though they do look pretty shit, not everything visually does look pretty shit. I mean, you've got the Balrog. There is no question that the Gandalf versus Balrog scene is just absolutely killer in this movie. It just makes the movie even more spectacular. It makes Gandalf as a character more amazing, and his death was quite heartfelt as well. I really felt for the character, and the Nazgul were also pretty terrifying. But then again, not even all of the big things look spectacular. I mean, the cave troll was obvious green screen for a start off, but then you've also got this weird fucking water monster thingy. Now, is it just me, or does anyone else think of Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean when that thing comes on screen? Yeah, I know I do. I mean, that thing is pretty shitty looking, so not everything visually worked for this movie. The set visuals and a couple of the big monsters worked, but the rest didn't for me. And there are also more tiny bits in this movie that I can also pick from that just also get on my nerves a little bit. I mean, for example, you've got the scene where Saruman is going, you watch Jabana bollocks, and he's up there saying all that kind of shit, and he's trying to get the snow onto Gandalf and the other people, and the snow falls on them. But are you telling me that they seriously don't die from that? That is impact from snow, and it's big blocks of snow if you've noticed in the film. They are huge blocks that crash down on them. You're telling me no one is hurt from that? They're all get out of that unscathed? Bollocks. And then there's also that bit where the cave troll stabs Frodo in the chest, so you're kind of always in your head just going, nah, he can't be dead because he's a main character, he can't die. But they kind of play out in the movie as if they kind of want the audience to believe that he's dead. You know, just like, oh my god, he's fallen to the floor, he's really hurt, obviously he's been stabbed. But it's like, well, firstly, no, because I know he's gotten the mithril on. And secondly, what pisses me off is the fact that everyone's thinking he's dead because he's lying on the floor so still. And then he just gets back up just like, I'm okay. I'm alright. Like, dude, what are you playing dead for? If you're alright, you don't lie there like that. I mean, okay, if you were lying there just to convince the troll that you're dead, fair enough. But then the troll died. Why were you still on the ground? For fuck's sake. But guys, in the end, I did enjoy Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. It was a good movie, I will admit. It did set up the next movies really well. It was fairly entertaining in a few moments, but in the end, guys, I did find it to drag on about half an hour too long. Seriously, just that bit in the Elf Fortress, and the fact that there just really wasn't enough action for me in this movie to be entertained with, and even when there was action going down, it just dragged on to something else that wasn't action. But guys, I will say that in the end, The Lord of the Rings The Fellowship of the Ring is a good movie, and I'm going to put this movie in the maybe pile. But guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you will enjoy more videos that is to come on this channel. If you've got any questions or any opinions that you want to express for yourselves, leave a comment down below, and I guarantee you I will contact you straight away. But for now, guys, I will see you in the future.